Hello, everyone. Welcome to Consult the Hawks LLC. My name's Hayden.
I'm Lexi.
I'm Caitlin, and today we've been asked to consult Flavor Town Cupcakes, New York.
So we're going to be using common scenarios you may encounter in the kind of a business setting or a job setting, and we're going to be using two-way XLOOKUP functions to kind of combat those problems and solve them very much quicker than maybe a typical index or match, or avoid the typical problems with an index or match function. So here we go. We're going to start with debriefing on what an XLOOKUP function is exactly. Just kind of get the basics down before we embed two within each other. So for this example, we're going to try to find an employee ID number given an employee name. And to do this, it's relatively simple. We can choose a random employee from this list. The dropdown was already created, but I'll go over an example where the boss maybe has a list already and then want to find the ID number. But to start, we're going to use an XLOOKUP function. XLOOKUP. We're going to use the lookup value, cross it with the employee names to return the ID number with the matching employee name. And we don't necessarily need to create an absolute reference here, but if you are filling the formulas down, like we'll see in a minute, you will need to hit Command T or F4 if you're on a Windows. Command T is for Mac. The lookup array will be the ID number because that's the value we want to return. Or sorry, excuse me, the return array will be the ID number because that's the value we want to return. And we can then we get that ID number. And the nice thing about this little table right here is we can choose any, let's say Isabel Ali, and we want her employee ID number. Now let's say a boss has just given a list, and we just want to go down that list and return an ID number. And let's say it's just in a random order. So let's sort this list right here. Oops. Sort this list, just a random A to Z. Okay, so we can use an XLOOKUP function like we did previously. XLOOKUP lookup value will be the employee name. The lookup array will be the employee name within the table that returns the ID number. So we're going to hard code this because we will be filling this formula down. The lookup array will be the ID number. We also need to hard code this, create an absolute reference, just so that we can kind of create that absolute reference so it doesn't unfill. We create an error message. So we can fill that down, just double click this, and we get all this extremely quickly instead of having to go find each one and get that value back. So here we're going to have Lexi, and she's going to go over cupcake sales by quarter.
Hi, okay, so first I'm just going to pick a random flavor. I like cookies and cream, and we'll do quarter 4. So we're going to be looking up like the sales for cookies and cream within quarter 4. So to do this, we can use an XLOOKUP. We're going to be looking up cookies and cream within these cupcake flavors. And then our lookup array. Oh, sorry. Looks like I didn't get cookies and cream there. Okay. Then that would be our lookup array. Our return array will be another XLOOKUP function. We'll be looking up quarter 4. And then we're just looking up within like the 4 quarters we have at the top there. And our return array will be these values here. And then we'll do a couple parentheses. That should get us 307. So now we can double check our figure. So cookies and cream right here, quarter 4 is 307. So we did it correct. I'm going to pass it on to Caitlin now. She's going to be doing the inaugural cupcake competition.
Alrighty, so here we can see the results from Flavor Town Cupcakes inaugural cupcake competition. And we're going to be using XLOOKUP with an XLOOKUP in a very similar way to what Lexi did on the last slide, but with just different context. So let's say we want to look up the creativity category and we want to see how Emily Wilson did, what her score was. So we could just come over here to our chart and we could look and find, oh, look, here's Emily Wilson's name, and in creativity, she got an 80. So we know that's the number we're looking for, but let's say they have a lot of contestants and a large amount of data, then we can use XLOOKUP within XLOOKUP to find this number faster. I'll show you how. So we're going to start with our XLOOKUP function. The lookup value is, let's start with our contestant name, Emily Wilson, and we want to find her name in this whole array of all the other contestant names. And our return array is where we're going to embed our second XLOOKUP function. And for this, our lookup value is going to be our category name. In this case, it's creativity. And we're going to match that against all of our other category names up top. And, oh, one second, guys. Excellent. Put both of those under lookup value. All right. A second XLOOKUP function. Our lookup value is the category name, creativity, and comma. We want to find that in our lookup array, which are these headers up top, comma. And our return array is going to be all of our data, because what XLOOKUP within XLOOKUP is doing, saying, okay, here is where our column header name is, and here's our row, or yeah, matching it with rows and columns, and then it's trying to find where those like intersect, basically. All right, we're closing out the first XLOOKUP and the second XLOOKUP, and we enter, and we get 80, the number we're looking for. All right, back to you, Hayden.
All right. So here we'll be looking at clock in and clock out times. So a typical clock in, clock out system may use an employee ID number. You may type in your number and get that time, and then type in your number when you're clocking out. Or you may scan a card and it may use your employee ID number to identify the time you clocked in and time you clocked out. So here we're just going to be using a two-way XLOOKUP function in order to find kind of when that happens. So let's say we use an XLOOKUP here. We kind of I identify the problem, and I kind of work backwards in this situation. So I can think about finding the ID number first, and then plugging that into an XLOOKUP function for the XLOOKUP value in the inside the other XLOOKUP function to then return the clock in time. So it may sound a little confusing, but follow along with me, and it should make more sense here in a second. So I'm working backwards here. I'm using the employee name. I'm going to use the lookup array for the employee name to match the employee name to the ID number. And I need to create an absolute reference here by hitting Command T or using F4 if you're on Windows. Then I will return array the ID number. And so now this XLOOKUP function will return the ID number according to the employee's name. So we need to create another XLOOKUP function, creating from the front here. And so that ID number is now going to be the lookup value. Since we already had that XLOOKUP function, we will now use that XLOOKUP function that returns the ID number to match it along with the clock in time for that ID number. So the lookup array will be the ID number for the clock in time, and we'll create an absolute reference. And then we will use the clock in time to get the time, or for the return array to return the time. And we'll use an absolute reference as well. And look at that. Fills it down right for us. Look how much quicker that was than start searching through all the ID numbers to try to find the clock in time, clock out time. We're going to do the same thing over here for the clock out time. And this time I will do just normally instead of working backwards. We're just going to use two XLOOKUP values. Lookup value will be the name over here. The return array is just the same process we did last time. And then to get the ID number in here for the lookup value, the first XLOOKUP function. So that will return this function we have right here that I'm highlighting right now. That will return the ID number, and we need to use the ID number to find the clock out time. So we can use the ID number over here in the clock out time column, return the clock out time. There we go. And then it fills it down for this, and that was so much quicker than going through and scanning all the employee ID numbers and trying to match with the times and returning all those values. I'm going to turn it over to Lexi for inventory management.
Okay, so I'll be using XLOOKUP to find certain locations, like what they need for each ingredient. So here we have a data set. You can see each location needs XYZ amount of each ingredient. So for this example, I will look up Maple Avenue, and let's look up milk. So here we can say Maple Avenue and milk. We're gonna want to return 31 gallons. So we can do an XLOOKUP, and here you can see the lookup value is going to be Maple Avenue. So we'll click on Maple Avenue, that's K2 there, and we'll look that up amongst the other city names. Return array will be another XLOOKUP function. And then here you can see on the Excel, it gives us the nice, like what you need to input next. So it'll be lookup value, and that'll be milk this time. Our lookup array for that will be the other ingredients. And then our return array will be the big chunk of data here. And then we'll just do a couple parentheses and we should be good to go. So we can see here we got 31 gallons, which is correct for Maple Avenue and milk. So I'll turn it over to Caitlin now for the sales analysis.
Alrighty. So here for sales analysis, we're going to see how well different cupcake flavors do depending on the region. and what their sales are. And so this is going to be very similar to how we've been using the XLOOKUP within XLOOKUP function. So let's say we wanted to look up in the Northeast region how our birthday cake flavor was doing. So we're going to start with our equals XLOOKUP. Our lookup value, let's say we want to start with region. So we'll hit Northeast or I2, comma, the array we want to look that up in is the rest of the region names, which are our column headers. Our return array, remember, this is where our second XLOOKUP function goes. You guys are probably experts at this by now. Within here, we're going to be looking up our flavor, birthday cake, comma, we're going to try to find that in all of our arrays of all of our flavors. And we want it to return a number or a value from all of this sales data. We'll close out of our embedded XLOOKUP function and then our original XLOOKUP function return, and we get 569. We can always come and check ourselves over here where we see Northeast birthday cake flavor, and that is $569. All right, back to Hayden.
All right. Hello, everyone. So we can, this is an application for employee evaluation. So let's say my boss is like wanting me to create this table where I can select any employee name for any employee category that we evaluate employees based on, and just return a value instantly. So let's say we want to see how many years employed, let's say Bob Billings. Let's say how many years has Bob Billings been employed by the cupcake business. So we use an XLOOKUP function. We want to look up Bob Billings, and we want to use it. Our lookup array will be the employee names. We can create absolute reference. I just like to, or it's already an absolute reference, excuse me. Our return array is going to be another XLOOKUP function because we need to find the header with the years employed to kind of return that intersection point where the value will be returned, kind of like an index and match function would do. So we need to use the I2, which is the years employed, and we need to cross-check that with the column header. Then we will return this data set, return value. We need to close out of both these, hit enter, and Bob Billings has been employed for not even a full year by this company. Let's change this. Let's say we want to find Caitlin Chapman and how many, what's her error rate? So we have a 1.1% error rate for Caitlin Chapman. We can look at Noah Clark's error rate, or we can look at his peer review score. So now we can see that he has a passing or above a C. So that's a passing score. Okay, so now I will pass this along to Caitlin, and she will be going over an email list to kind of return email values. Excuse me.
Alrighty. So this is our final example. Congrats on making it this far. And this time you can see our data is in one array where it's kind of been like, here's the row names, here's the column names, and the large amount of data, but it's like two separate pieces, charts kind of. Anyway, so we're trying to find the email for the employee name, but to do that, we have to match employee name to their ID number, and then that ID number gets matched to their email. So we're going to start with our first XLOOKUP function. And then this is a little different than what we've been doing. We're going to immediately put our second XLOOKUP function here in the lookup value. And we're going to start by looking up within our second XLOOKUP function. The employee name will be our lookup value. We're going to match that to this array of all employee names. And we want it to return one of these ID numbers. And we're going to close out of that embedded lookup function. So what that just did is that function is going to return an ID number that we're then going to look up in this array of other ID numbers. And it's going to return an email from this array. We're going to close out of that, hit enter.
Hard code.
We need to hard code all of this. So that's Command T on a Mac. Oh my God. Okay. And if you're on Windows, that's F4. But since we're filling this down, as you can see, to all of the employees, we need to hard code everything, and there we go.
Thanks for training with Consult the Hawks LLC today. We hope you learned something useful and something new.
We also have an additional handout that goes along with this Excel file, so you guys can follow along a little bit easier. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time.